There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast.
I'm gonna get there.
Jacob after the last episode is still waving. He's been waving through the whole time.
Put a hat on though.
You're right. Yeah, as he's waving, he's like putting the hat on.
Dude, your arm disappeared. Ah!
Oh, his arms, yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
has detachable arms.
Well, it's better than me.
right. Anyways, hey, we're here to talk another episode of the Rod Serling famous TV series, and also this famous podcast that. How's that work, Jacob? That three people are on, named Triv, Jacob, and
Oh yeah, we're absolutely the number one Twilight Zone episode or podcast out there with three people named Triv, Nick, and Jake.
Woohoo!
I know we're so popular that our last video I got a dislike.
Hey.
That's when you know you've hit it big. Is when
Yeah,
you get dislikes.
and I think it was me actually. I disliked it. You know,
Well, for fuck's sake.
He disliked it 'cause it wasn't
I was
number
trying
one.
to have a right. I was trying to be the guy that comments and puts a like on my own comment. You know, that type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so we're here. We're talking another Rod Serling episode of the Twilight Zone. We're doing things. We're on audio feeds like Anchor and SoundCloud and Cups of Uranus and iTunes and Google
Audio
Play and all those stuff. We have ways you can rate us and get us more populous and make money and all those types of things. We're that type of
Yay.
podcast. We are whores for the money, right?
Fuck yeah,
Well, you guys are whores for the money. I'm here for the Serling.
she's a gigolo.
Do you like it medium
We
rare?
switched
Do you like it rare?
Damn straight I do.
Do you like
Yeah.
it burnt and sweaty?
Occasionally.
Mid-range.
You
Not
like
the
it with a
burnt and
jacket,
sweaty.
no shirt?
Oh God, no.
This season's all about the men with the jacket, no shirt.
And the ascot. What's with the what
Yeah.
was with the whole Anyway.
Was it an ascot?
the
or- I
60s.
swear it looked like a noose, like he got away.
I
Didn't take
assumed
it
it was
off.
an ascot, like
It's just
a
real
Freddy,
sweaty.
like not a hardcore
Sweaty Scott.
ascot, but just a semi ascot.
It's an
He's
ascot.
like
you
a
heard the
dumb
forecast
ass.
tomorrow was hot.
Scott.
He's like, I need to cool
Scott's
myself
ass.
off with a nice, cool, smooth Oasis.
I
in it.
have thoughts on him, but that's another story for another hour.
But anyways,
And
yeah,
that made no
as you
sense.
know, I'm here with my usual co-hosts, which of course are Jacob and Triv. How the hell are you guys? Jacob, congratulations on your successful video and chair.
Thank you.
Triv, congratulations
Chair's
on
not successful
the
yet.
deed that you're giving to me.
What, I don't get success for actually putting up a video, even though it's about beavers.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff?
you showed us your beavers, your hundreds of
Anytime
beavers.
beavers are included, it's success in my book.
I mean,
Successful
it's
beavers.
a little tiny movie, but hey, I had fun talking
Yeah,
about it.
Tiny beaver. Tiny beavers are okay.
Right.
I mean,
So
Why
we've
don't you
all
be the
had
judge when you
successes
actually
this week.
see the
this
movie.
could go to a bad place.
Exactly. Oh God. Best beaver by a damn sight.
Right.
So was it your
Damn
mom or your
tour.
sister on top, Nick?
I left that in there last week, right?
Yeah, I did. I watched it. I watched it a little late. I watched it on Wednesday, yesterday. And when that happened, I laughed as much as first time.
Oh
good.
man. See, these are the types of things you'll hear about in the Twilight Zone of the fifth
Yes.
dimension.
I'd like to
but
think
anyways,
that
how you
Rod
get-
Serling would approve.
But no, seriously, like congrats on the video there, Jacob, and the chair, and Triv,
you.
congratulates on the video and the beavers.
Beavers.
And I'm waiting for the deed for the theater. I'm supposed to get that really soon.
No,
Yeah.
you can piss off.
Yeah.
Man, she's being mean. She must be in a hot zone right now.
Yeah, don't make assumptions about if I'm hot or not.
Well, I
Asshole.
mean, you live in Iowa. I mean, it's hot up there with all the corn around you, right?
Methane
Frying.
gas.
It's more chill than where you're at, you horny bastard.
I don't know. It's raining where I'm at. It's
Well, good.
spraying everywhere. Yeah. So,
Spray.
Oh,
Hey, I
so
saw that they did open in Orlando. I saw they. I don't. Ooh, are we supposed to say where you live? My bad.
I don't
But I
know.
saw.
I think I've said it before on the podcast. So
Yeah, I think that I saw that they opened some type of like super fast train that goes to Miami, so you could like
yeah,
go stomping ground.
it's called wasting taxpayers' dollars. The train.
Oh, I
Bienvenido
don't.
a
Okay,
Miami.
I just saw
Yeah,
something. I
it's
didn't
supposed to
read it.
connect to Disney World.
Load all into Disney.
Yeah. Okay, so the Fifth Dimension, a Twilight Zone podcast, is here to talk another episode. What's the next episode? Let's skip past this
Hill
episode.
Valley.
Something
No,
called The
no,
Occult.
we're talking about this damn episode. So you buckle down.
Why are you making me do things I don't want to do, Triv?
Because
Son of a
we are completists.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of a burger with macaroni and cheese
Oh,
and
God.
pulled pork and cheese.
Yes,
and a
it's
nice bun.
probably delicious, but right
that in
now
the
you
episode?
focus on the fucking Midnight Sun, you silly bastard.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
video game with Wolverine and
Sure, why not?
Cyclops and is
No,
that the right
nobody
one?
focused on that.
No, in all joking aside, we are talking The Midnight Sun, which is season 3, episode 10, directed by Anton Leader, written by Rod Serling. Stars Lewis Nettleton, who is was known for being the wife of course, Gene who did I say?
Shepherd.
Gene Shepard, the
Gene
creator of the Christmas Story. The overdramatic Betty Gard, who plays Mrs. Bronson, and Tom Reese, who
Waterfall.
most dramatic Twilight Zone fall in the history of Twilight Zone falls. It's like she
Right,
got pummeled by Nan Adams.
well, no, Dan Adams' car was on the side of the road. She gave up. She's like, she was the son, actually.
Hot as fuck out here. Fuck this.
Hey, hitchhiker, let's go. I want to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, this is officially where Dan Adams just went off into the sunset. Or the sun.
Literally.
Got blasted into the sun.
Yep.
But I told you last week when we were talking about the great episode that Death had revisited. I said this would probably be an episode similar to Third from the Sun, where the ending might actually make you feel better than the actual episode. So I don't know, Jacob, if that made it feel better, made it feel tingly in the cockles, like the Third from the Sun.
You want me to answer that now?
Well, you can just answer if it made you feel something.
No.
No, damn it. Damn it. Episode over. We've lost Jacob forever. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Okay.
actually thought of that right. I forgot you said that. And then when the end of this episode crept about, I was like, okay. Oh, yeah. Nick said this is going to be like some banger of an ending that's going to make up for it all, like Third from the Sun. I'm ready. Oh. Okay. That's the end.
Well,
Maybe
I
he
mean,
meant
to be
what Rod
fair-
Serling was going to say after the credits. Nope.
No softest
Well, I mean-
taste there either.
No, not even
Right.
the softest taste.
Damn it.
I mean, to be
That
fair,
would be
that's
perfect for Oasis cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
In a hot episode. Just saying.
Very.
Oh man. Yeah, the Midnight Sun's not a great episode. We have thoughts and feelings about it. I'm pretty sure we all agree that it's just
I mean, I don't think here's the thing, and I know we'll get into this more
Triv
later.
coming in
But
with her
I
hot
don't
thoughts.
yeah, you're damn right. Actually, them rather cool. But I don't think from a just a general viewer perspective, because I remember seeing this on the marathons all the time. I don't remember it ever being a bad episode. In fact, the first time I saw it, I like when the ending hit, it's like, oh wow, okay. Going in a different direction, one extreme to the other. It makes sense, that you don't get caught up in all the kind of dramatic and weird kind of stuff that happens. So if you're just watching this from the perspective of like, I'm watching Twilight Zone, like it's not going to be an episode. It's memorable from the perspective of, okay, what happens in there is pretty memorable. But you're gonna go on to the next episode, and it's like, okay, well, it was an episode. It did what it needed to do, and we move on. But yeah, from a critical perspective, yeah,
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I felt like they set up a cool world and like a cool idea, but that's all it was. It's like somebody had a really cool idea. It's like, oh yeah, let's just have this setting. I was like, okay, that's cool.
See,
What are you gonna do with it?
The episode
Nothing.
the episode is based off the simple fact of like if the ending works or not.
yeah.
Like the whole lead up is just it's fine. I don't know. It's one of those episodes where I go, I understand why this episode happened because they needed 38,000 episodes for a season. Not all of them were going to be bangers. Not all of them are Death Has Revisited or It's a Good Life. It's an episode that is there to stroke your fancy and then move on, like Triv said and Jacob said. It's there.
I thought they could have done something more with the guy. Like, I thought that was
They were
going to be more
gonna-
impactful, but it really was kind of pointless. Besides
Yeah.
showing that, like, marauders and raiders and stuff like that are a thing, which they had already set that up and said it was. But,
He's on
like,
the roof.
That part,
He comes
well,
from
that
the roof.
how did he get on the fucking roof, by the way? But anyway, the
He was Icarus.
I know we'll get to it, but I'm like, I thought like his entrance and like how all that happened, through the door and everything was cool. I was like, okay, we're getting into something now. But then when you get the payoff of what that whole thing means, it's just, I mean, I guess it shows the desperation and all that, but it just doesn't really do much for the episode, for me at least.
I
It's
mean,
just
he-
kind of
Well,
a filler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude was kind of a dick and he did some dick-ish things, which yeah, I guess we'll wait till we get more into it. But it just
Yeah.
it
Well,
didn't-
no, I mean, the episode before Rod Sterling just pops out in the middle of the room is like 6 minutes long. I looked at we were watching this episode. I told Triv, I said the opening is 6 minutes long. It wastes a third of the episode of this nonsense of like woman. She's a painter. She apparently doesn't wear special glasses to look at the sun. So it's like I just. And then the old woman comes in, or she tries to like,
There you go.
right?
Those are the perfect glasses for this.
Yeah, right.
Those are like
He,
Gates and Riddick ones.
The goggles.
Yeah.
But she's painting pictures of the sun for whatever reason. It's hot. She's sweaty. She tries to give the kid water. The father
Super
doesn't
creepy
like that.
kid that shows up at her
Yeah.
door. It's like,
yeah, the kid looked like she belonged in Nightmare as a Child.
she looked like, yeah, that, or she looked like the kid from fucking Hereditary.
Oh my
She
god,
showed up
yeah.
and I was like,
Oh, so is that why the car is on the road and when they look out because
Oh
they hit
my
the
the
God.
telephone pole.
You look
Yeah.
closely and there's a head
Little head.
just in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Oh man.
By the way, did you notice that I thought they were going to do something kind of clever when it went to the Rod Serling part? He did not even he didn't even have enough in him to just like walk out, because it like moved to a door. I thought he was going to walk out of the door, like out of one of the other apartments, and come out and go, "Hey, I'm Rod Serling. Here's in the Twilight Zone." But he didn't. It did that, and then it like pans over and does like a quick cut, and tries to cover it up, and he's just standing over here. And I was like, dude, why didn't he walk out of the door? That would have worked perfect. But
It would have worked. It would have worked better if Rod Sterling was just the guy, the sweaty guy. He just shows
You
up.
see
in
him
the
like
episodes.
his tie is like slightly askew.
Right.
Maybe his
He's
got
wearing
the
still got a cigarette.
jacket over the
Yeah, he's
shoulder.
wearing- yeah,
But you know
right. He's
that
wearing
that's
cotton.
a lot of episodes though in Twilight Zone. Like it literally like and I think it's the ones where they don't quite know what to do, because they will pan over and it's normally just him standing there. There's not like big.
Well, sometimes it
transitional thing.
works.
Oh, no,
Sometimes it's cool.
absolutely.
This one, I don't know. I just felt like he should have walked. They had a perfect thing, like everybody walked out of frame, and it was weird because it like went this way, like kind of following them, but then they walked out of frame and it stopped on a door, and I was like, he's gonna come out of the door, and then it just says it whip panned over like or whipped over this way
Whip
to
zoomed.
cover up the cut. Yeah, whip zoom to cover up the cut of he wasn't really there. To him just standing there, I was like, why not have him just walk out the door? That would have been a really, at least an interesting transition to that narration, but
Oh,
whatever.
absolutely.
He could have done like the guy did. He could have like broken the door down and go, "Here's Roddy," and just with the wasted cigarette in his mouth.
You
as
know
he
what
does
he
the
could have
opening
been?
narration.
You know what he could have done that would have been really cool? So there was the thermostat outside the window. He just sitting on the ledge by the thermostat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's like pointing to the thermostat. He's like, "Here's a thermostat. It goes up and down." Today's story, it goes up and up and up.
Today in the
Hey,
Twilight
it's hot.
Zone,
It's,
hot as
he's
fuck.
like, right.
The
God
mercury
damn, it's
continues
hot.
to rise. So do tempers
Right.
in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, this is a precursor to Who Gives a Fuck. It's hot.
like the radio guy. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Where I am.
No, I mean, but that's the problem with this episode. Like a lot of it to begin with, yes, it sets up, but it's like 6 minutes of just like of the boringness. We see
Painting
a family
suns.
leave. We see like a family leave. We see an old woman who comes into the mix, Mrs. Bronson, She's very sweaty. Everybody's sweaty in this episode.
they
It
are.
makes me uncomfortable. Mrs. Bronson's how I felt when I was living in Miami, when
Oof.
like the AC was bad. I was like sweaty all the time. Like if you watch some of the earlier episodes of the Twilight Zone when I'm in Miami, you could tell I'm sweating my ass off because it's so hot. And I feel for him, man. I feel for him. This is like my worst fear is like living in a city that like that loses its AC. Or actually, it's kind of funny. She has AC, but she has the window open. She's like wasting water, and I don't know. This world
And
doesn't make any sense. It
real
makes
quick
no
too,
damn
like
sense.
I'm no great painter, but you would like you think about those paints. I think they
Yeah.
would dry out. And plus the water to
Oh, I
like
thought they were
clean your
oil.
brushes and shit. Oh, I guess they could have been, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably oil. That's probably why they melted. But
Yeah,
right,
that's
I
a good
mean,
point.
it's like what's his face from Knives Out. It makes no damn sense.
No, it's just dumb.
That's how I felt this episode. I mean, I'm watching it. And I'm like, I'm more focused on my cat because I just got bored in this episode. It just,
He did. I can attest to that.
it just 6 minutes. It takes 6 minutes to get into Rod Sterling's intro. Nothing should take 6 minutes. Nothing,
I mean,
unless you're having sex.
you
That
know,
could take
I
6
was gonna
minutes. but-
say.
I mean, 6 minutes is a long time for No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway.
No,
Let's
but in
move
all
on.
honesty, like,
Do you guys need some alone time? I can come back later.
yes, Trev.
It
Yes, Trev.
apparently
Give
won't be
us,
much
We're gonna test out Jake. No, I'm just no, but yeah, but seriously, there's discussion for 6 minutes about paintings and the sun and young kids. It's just like I stopped caring after 4 minutes. I'm like, when's Rod Sterling coming into the mix to make this interesting? And yeah, let's just do the opening narration because I don't want to talk for 6 minutes about this nonsense.
You've already talked for
already
6
have.
minutes about it.
Oh yeah, we're probably like
talked
45 minutes of the
about
episode.
6 minutes. I do want to say before the opening narration, I didn't have as much of a problem at the beginning. I mean, yeah, it was a bit drawn out, but I saw that they were setting up the world and, setting up that it's fucking hot and people were leaving the city. And, that I was fine with that. It wasn't the most like epically engaging thing ever for sure, but I was kind of putting my faith in the Twilight Zone that, okay, they're setting up a world here. But admittedly, it was a little long in the tooth, as they say.
Yeah. Well,
But-
that too, and it's like for the time, and not to say there wasn't sci-fi around at that point, and there wasn't like a lot of climactic or like climate-based catastrophic B movies. But I don't think for something like this, it's not like we look at it and we go, oh yeah, climate change or whatever, just sci-fi or whatever. But with this, it would have been something that would need a little bit more introduction because at that point, your average audience probably wouldn't be that keen on it.
I would agree with that, but there's a point where it feels like it's too much. Like, yes, you need to set up this world, but we've seen Twilight Zone episodes that have set up worlds perfectly in like 2 to 3, like less than 6 minutes. Like,
Yeah, but this is pretty. This isn't like your typical. This isn't a Western. It's not like even something set in space. This is a like something based on. Oh well, the Earth fell out of orbit. I guarantee you, a good chunk of humanity at that point would go, Earth can do that. That whole bit. I don't think you would have the understanding of without a little bit more understanding.
That's why we have Bill Nye the Science Guy. You can tell
They
us
didn't
about
have
Earth.
Bill
Hour.
Nye the Science Guy back then. He was like at most a fetus.
Well, he was a Bill Fetus the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the fetus guy.
Fetus guy. Sperm Nye the anyway, yeah.
Okay, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, I'll let you. I'm looking up in the companion, so I'll let you.
I was looking
go.
up Bill Nye the Science Guy to see how old he was.
Did you want to see if he was a fetus guy?
I want to see how
Well, I
old he was.
mean, to be fair, in the Adobe Creative with Firefly, you can create Bill Nye the Fetus Guy just by typing it in.
AI could suck my balls.
Really? I'd never leave home. Let's see. I mean, anybody who doesn't want to admit that can kiss my ass.
Kiss your balls.
Oh,
If we could
By
do
the
the things
way-
dogs could do, Jesus Christ, I'd
Well,
be like,
you-
would you do it if you could? Fuck yeah, well, hell yes.
so this makes a lot of sense. The Midnight Sun had only 3 shooting days and $52,000 to portray the total destruction of the Earth. Remarkably, a pretty convincing picture is presented. With a limited budget and facilities, we had to do a lot of improvising, recalls director Antonio Leader, who had done so very well in the long-lived Walter Jamison episode. We used to do we had to use every
Hmm.
means available to us to project the fear of developing heat and the cataclysmic events of ending the world. I think we did a pretty good job. So, anyways,
Bill Nye was 6 or 7, by the way, when this came out.
Oh, okay. Well, Bill Nye, the
So
small
Bill-
fry guy.
The small fry. Anyway, opening narration. Here we go.
Woo!
I've not read this, by the way, in advance.
good. That's how we
The
like.
word that Miss Bronson is unable to put into the hot, still, sodden air is doomed because the people you've just seen have been handed a death sentence. 1 month ago, the Earth suddenly it changed its elliptical orbit, and as doing so, began to follow a path which gradually, moment by moment, day by day, took it closer to the sun. And all of man's little devices to stir up the air are now no longer luxuries. They happen to be pitiful and panicky keys to survival. The time is 5 minutes to 12, midnight. There is no more darkness. The place is New York City. And this is the eve of the end. Because even at midnight, it's high noon, the hottest day in history, and you're about to spend it in the Twilight Zone.
Okay, I have a thought, and I just kind of thought about this. Even if the sun, even if the Earth like got off its rotation and headed towards the sun,
We'd all
does
die.
it not still rotate? The Earth itself?
Yes, see, I know what you're getting at. I guess there would become a point, and I think by that point, I think that by the time that the sun could, well, you could get close enough to the sun to where its light would literally envelop the Earth for the most part,
True.
at least.
Or at least the heat would.
Yeah. Well, hell, it's light. Its light could, curve around and be so bright, so close to it that it lit that up. It might be brighter in some places, but if you're that close to the sun, first of all, everybody's dead. But also, at least
Oh,
one
yeah, yeah.
side, one side of the Earth, the one that's facing the sun, would literally be cooking, like burn. Nothing would survive that.
Well, there's a YouTube channel that I watched for like the longest time. I've watched all the episodes, so there's nothing else to watch, where they go into detail about this, about if the moon were to suddenly change orbit and come close to us, or Jupiter or the sun, like none
We'd
of
all
this is
die.
logical.
All the
Yeah.
tides would
Like
shear
almost
us.
instantly. If something like the smallest little thing like that happened, it would be catastrophic.
Yeah, like if
all
it
the
came within
planets.
like
Yeah.
1,000 miles, or like if the trajectory lost like 1,000 miles towards, like it'd be done. Like we wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
Like the moon, if the moon were like just a hair closer, it would affect us dramatically. And
It would affect our oxygen, our atmosphere, our gravity, like everything, the
tides.
Yeah.
heat,
Yeah.
just all of it. Like that's why Moonfall is such horseshit, but I love it. But love that fucking movie, but it is so full of shit.
right.
But yeah,
Jacob, we're clearly missing something about the midnight sun.
What's
Clearly, you don't understand why the sun could be seen everywhere. It's because the Earth is flat. You didn't
Oh,
know?
Oh
yeah.
God. Don't start.
The
I'm
Earth
sure
is
they knew it
flat.
was round
This
back
is
then.
this is how I believe the Earth is flat by watching the midnight sun.
Jesus.
well, sure, yeah, it's
You know
flat.
what? It's been nice knowing you. I'm checking out of the fifth dimension.
But anyways,
Yeah.
the midnight sun is actually what the midnight sun means basically is a place where it is never dark, and like it's always sunlight. And I think there's actually places in the world that are like that, right?
At least
Like,
for parts of the year, yeah.
Yeah, like you go
Like,
up to the
Yeah,
North Pole,
North and
like
South Pole.
there's yeah, that's where the term midnight sun comes from. It's like,
Yeah.
oh God, is it a month where there's either
It
No,
depends.
it's like
sunlight
6
or no
months. It's
sunlight?
like something like
There's
6
some
months or
places
something
that
like
is like 6 months out of the year it's daytime, but then they'll
Yeah,
have
or it's
like
total darkness.
6 months where it's like nighttime. I don't know if that's the exact number, but there are parts where it's like long stretches of time. It's just day, and that's
Yeah.
why a lot of the people have
Yeah.
like that reflective tape over their windows
Oh yeah, no,
so they
makes
can
sense.
sleep because it's just daytime all the time, and it throws off their what do they
Internal
call that?
clocks.
Um,
Your internal
yeah, but
clocks.
There's a word. There's a
Biological,
term for it.
not your biological.
No, not that, but
clock.
I can't remember.
I
It's-
just
it's
know-
a-
I just
whatever
know-
it throws that
yeah.
off.
I just know the place that is really dark for 6 months of the year. A lot of vampires.
Oh, and
Like
that's a
vampires.
well, no, it's 30 days of darkness.
That's 30 days of night. Yeah.
There's
I don't
the-
know
and
what you're talking about. I just know
interestingly-
there's vampires in the 6 months. Anyways,
Interestingly, real quick, one more thought on this. There's actually a place in, I think it's Switzerland or Sweden, where the mountains are so high around this little town that's set in a deep valley. it's the same thing that the sun is so low on the horizon that it is dark for however long, a couple of weeks or something. But
Yeah,
anyway.
That's next week's episode.
They didn't make
Well,
a
so's your
vampire movie
face.
about that.
Why are you ruining next week's episode, Triv? Gosh dang it.
Because you're need to focus on this episode. We need to get through this. We're
There's not
sloshing
much that
through
happens
the
in this episode. A lot of
Well,
sweaty
still.
people, and I mean, when we talk about this episode, I'm like, I wrote down Mr. Beavis's car is still there.
That was
6
hilarious.
minutes long. The woman grabbed the cans of prune juice. She's just complaining about a woman crying. I mean, a lot of it's just like, how are they dealing with this apocalyptic event where the sun is coming tomorrow? You know, the sun will come out tomorrow.
The whole episode
Literally.
seemed like the first half of a longer episode.
It really
Like
Yeah.
I kept waiting for, like, if this was one of those hour-long episodes, and like this was the first half,
I'd shoot
and then
myself.
more happened, and then something more happened. Who knows where it would go? But I mean, that would make sense. But it seems like there's just never. It's just these people living through this situation, and that's great and all. But I mean, what was the point of that? And then you have the ending, which we'll get to. That I don't know. It didn't do it for me as much. I was expecting more. I was literally sitting there thinking, okay, wait, because when I noticed that, I was like, are they? I bet they're on Mars, and this is the civilization of Mars millions of years ago, and this is how Mars died, or something like that. I don't know.
That would be
my
really
mind
cool.
was running with it, and we were gonna find out this wasn't Earth. I was like, did they ever say any Earth things? And then right after that, the lady comes out and she says, the Earth is doing this, and I was like, never mind. And I was trying to remember, did he say New York in the beginning, or did he just say the city, or I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they have 12 gallons of gas, which 12 gallons of gas will get you like 3 miles in 1960, because every car was a gas guzzler and shit. And I don't know. I get the premise. This is very Twilight Zone-y in its premise and idea, because it's about a situation that people find themselves in, and it's disturbing and scary. And
did you like the setup?
The
world, rather, not the setup. Did you like the world that they set up?
It was fine. It's just very Twilight Zone-y. It's nothing special about it. It's just the world is dying. This is very much a thing that he does in his stories, where some event is going to happen. It's going to destroy something, or somebody's going to die, or some effect is going to happen. It's very much playing into the fears of human beings, as what would happen if the Earth was going to get hit by an
Mortality.
asteroid or something.
And like
Yeah,
no way out.
mortality.
So there's nowhere you can run. I won't lie. I didn't love the episode. Like I said, didn't hate it either, but I didn't love it. But I liked what they set up. I liked that world.
Same.
I just felt like they didn't do enough with it. I like the idea of like this, there's nowhere to run. Go ahead, go to Canada, go to wherever. There's nowhere to run. This is happening. You might as well. That's why I feel like the painter lady just stayed. She's just like, I mean, what am I going to do?
Well,
you can't
right.
run from the sun. So I like that idea, and I like showing how the world's going to shit and how people are reacting to it. I was even cool with the guy coming in, and like I said, he didn't have much of a point. I say that because that was kind of like the culmination of like the big thing in the episode, but it wasn't really. If that was all set up and then something else happened, I would have been like, okay, he was just there to show how desperate people are, but they're not
Right.
bad people, but they're doing bad things because of the situations they're put in. That's great, but it didn't go anywhere else with it. That's why I was like, fuck.
Well, see, that's the problem with the low budget that it has. That if this were a big budgeted episode, you would see them go out into the streets for survival. Like maybe they don't have a house anymore because it's too, and they're like searching for water. I mean, like the companion says, this episode is dealing with apocalyptic scenarios like Time Enough at Last, and how do you survive that? And I get the survival aspect, because she went for food. All she could find was these special things. Somebody was crying. Why does this have to happen to us? Blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I just,
like, if we had seen her go out there for the food and all that in a bigger production, I don't know if that would have made it better.
that would be the hour-long thing you would see if you saw the hour-long
Yeah.
episode. That would be
I could
Right.
see them. I
But
could see them doing something like what they did in 2, where like you go out and kind of search around and you see other people and you see people, kind of battle for it. But yeah, I don't know, because
I don't know if that
it
would've
is a
done-
very pacifist. Pacifist isn't the right word. It's very much the story of people that have said okay, because like even the fact, okay, they're on the whatever floor, and heat rises, to be able to get down to the bottom floor, go into the basement, something to kind of like protect yourself, go someplace where it's cooler at least for the short term.
I don't know. I don't, maybe that's not see, and that stuff. I like those survival episodes too, but I didn't get that from these characters. I feel like these are two characters that have more or less accepted their fate,
That is true.
and
That
they're
is very
just
true.
writing it out. And it's kind of like, here's their day to day, their life, and that's cool. But it is still a show for entertainment. I want something because I feel like they've accepted their fate, but that doesn't mean that they want to meet that fate sooner or by some other means.
Right.
So they're still going to protect themselves as needed. I just wish the end had, I don't know. I just wish it had done something else with this whole thing. It just didn't. It didn't go
Well,
anywhere.
the thing, I don't know if you guys ever watched the Steve Carell, Keira Knightley movie, Finding a Friend at the End of the World, or whatever it was called. That does this premise better because, I mean, yes, it's a movie, it has a bigger budget, but I think it does the premise better where you see the effects of how people handle a situation like this, and you see it from like how people were the ones that are working at like a Bennigan's or whatever, the crazy nature there, people that are doomsday preppers, and the people that are just at a party. And here, because it's such a low budgeted episode, I feel like yes, they're trying to do as much as they can, but having one guy show up and complain about whatever happens to his family or whatnot, and steal all the water, and the temperature rise, and there's some cool like visual effects work and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, it just felt like a very
Another movie
Cool.
that did it, I don't know if I want to say arguably better, but dealt with a similar premise, was a lot deeper, would be Melancholy.
Oh yeah, that
yeah.
movie is
Yeah.
crazy, especially
Um,
that ending.
But yeah, that movie had a similar premise, a bit deeper, a bit of a different take.
So there's a knock at the door. Mrs. Bronson answers. They're like, "Hey, everyone's gone." She's like, "It's so quiet. I was trying to sleep, but you bothered me. I'm not a lesbian, so go away." And then all of a sudden, the door starts knocking at the roof. Like, how did guy to get to the roof? Because when she touches the banister, it's all hot, and she burns her hand and touches it with water. So
She
how
asked
did
her
this guy get
not
on the
to.
roof?
She asked her not to paint any more fucking suns too.
I don't blame her.
She said, "Stop painting the
She's
fucking
like,
sun."
Paint. She's like banging the painting. It's like who gives a shit? It's paint it.
I
Paint what you
liked
want.
that part that you were just talking about though, where she was like, they hear. I guess they heard. I didn't hear it. I guess they heard somebody on the roof or whatever. And then she was like, didn't you lock the door upstairs? And she was like, yeah, no, I don't know. It's fucking hot. Like, excuse me. I
Lost my
like how
damn
she
mind,
did that.
man.
And I thought that was built up really well. And then like the door just kind of went, I was like, yeah, I thought that was pretty tense. That was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
like how they did that.
This has
Yeah, I
moments
mean,
of good, I think.
It's enough. It's definitely not the worst thing we've ever seen. It's just an episode. It's just something that pops up. You may watch. If you don't think about it and break it down like we do, you go, yeah, it was fine. I lived through it. Next episode is the fever, so I must have lived through something.
Well, I think we were all expecting when that happened. It's like, okay, here's what we've been building to. We've built
Let's
the
get
world,
ready
we
to
got the
rumble.
characters. Here we go. And then something happens, but it's just you're like that's it. All right.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the payoff we were looking for.
And maybe
Me, I wasn't
I
looking.
very possibly am being very pedantic, but do you mind if I'll wait till you talk about what happens next?
Oh, with the guy.
Yeah.
You know what, Jim? I'm just gonna talk about the scene. Go for it.
Well, I mean, so they
No,
lock the
seriously,
door.
go for it.
Well,
Lead
they
us.
cock the gun. Guy goes, "Oh well, I guess I will pony
Hey,
or
see,
mosey on my
hey.
way." And then they're like, "Okay, good, we're safe." And then like Goofy forget a lot pants unlocks the door, and the guy comes in, and he's like, "Hey, I was on the roof and I don't know how I got there, and I'm gonna take all your water and then I'm gonna pour the rest over my head because screw you, and I'm a man, and blah, 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 blah," and whatever else. I'm kidding, but
That's a loose interpretation of what happened.
I know. But okay, so anyway,
Oh.
he pours the water all over his head, and then he becomes, kind of regains his sanity, and he's like, "I didn't mean to do that. I lost my wife. It's so hot. We all go a little crazy sometimes, and she was too fragile to take care of the heat." And then he kind of leaves, and that's kind of it.
We're
Yep.
stealing the water. Apparently, this episode is a look into greenhouse effects problems.
Were they looking
Yeah.
at that back then?
I don't think it's that deep.
And that's what it says in the Wikipedia. It says,
Oh.
or it says, Gotcha. Jay Halberman excerpts from the American Twilight Zone, published in Visions from the Twilight Zone. Whether explicitly nuclear or otherwise, the apocalypse was never far away in the Twilight Zone. The Midnight Sun was a telecast on the day the U.S. consolidated its drive for a push-button warfare with the first successful launching of the Minuteman missile from an underground silo. The episode substituted kink in the Earth's orbit, an analog to what was currently called the greenhouse effect for atomic holocaust instead of blowing up. So I mean, yeah, it wasn't like what we're dealing with now, but they were still,
Yeah.
we're worried about nuclear. I mean, it's nuclear war basically. It's the end of the world. It's hot. Things are being destroyed, crops and
No, I
houses.
definitely think with the guy, it could have, if they were gonna do something with it, and I guess this was kind of maybe the last straw, before everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket. But if you're gonna introduce that kind of a character, he really should have been brought in sooner and kind of, I don't know. I don't even know what you'd do with him. Like everything that happens in here, it's like it's not ideal, but it's like what would you do with those pieces?
Right. I mean, it also says here that there were supposed to be two other characters, but they spent a lot of time with Buck Houghton, Twilight Zone producer, to reduce the script. Some by Rod, but one speaking part or two speaking parts because we were just about to start shooting the show. We're way over budget, and Aubrey was really tough on the subject, even if it were the small amount of dollars. Apparently, there's a book called Sterling: The Rise and Twilight of Television's Last Angry Man. Yeah, I mean, apparently the budget was what killed this episode.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think the episode would have gone better because, well, I'll say, let's get to the end and then I'll say, because I don't want to say it ties into the end.
Well,
I'm sorry.
not
I
much
didn't
more
do a
left.
very good job.
no, but like, you did fine. Like you did better than I did. So shut up. No. Anyways,
Shut up.
Mr. Bronson. Yeah, he just walks out of the room. He's like, I wasn't gonna hurt you. I stole this gun for no reason. I would have liked to see like more things melt. Like the radio would have been cool if that melted and stuff like that. But basically, Mrs. Bronson has memories of her days in the nudist beach in Ithaca, New York.
The water.
She
Don't go. She was in TLC.
Yeah. But anyways, the paintings were made out of wax. That's how they melted. The thermometer was, of course, probably put under a heat lamp or something like that. That's why it exploded. And we have the greatest death sequence in the history of the Twilight Zone, or
Oh
any
my God.
Twilight Zone, or anything. Norma freaks out. She's like, ah!
She goes, ah, ah, ah.
She's
It
at
just,
a
like,
rave and then she just dies.
Planks backwards.
Right.
Great.
I mean, that's
don't
pretty
know.
much
I
what this
think
episode is. Yeah.
I was gonna say the dude from What You Want. I think the fact when he got hit by the car and he got left by his shoes got left behind. Arguably, that is a more dramatic death, but this one is like a very, very, very close second.
I don't know. The death and the fever is probably the best.
That is true.
Ah!
Oh no.
Yeah.
And then
And then
And that's the end of the episode. That's the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. We are officially done. That was the last episode of the series. And good night, everyone. No, what ends up happening is she starts freaking screaming and she collapses and the paintings begin to melt and the thermometer explodes and all that good stuff. And
I will say
yeah,
the painting melting was a pretty awesome
Yeah.
effect. Like that part
it
of
was
it was
all wax
cool.
apparently.
I really
apparently-
thought while she's sitting there screaming, because then like you get she's screaming because she's like burning more or less. That's what I took from it. She's like, ah! I thought she was about to do like a Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. Her face was going to go.
That would've
This
been
is
awesome.
fucking awesome. All of a sudden,
That would have been amazing.
Oh man.
it didn't.
But what happens next is even more awesome. Like I told Jacob it would be. So it switches over and it's snowing outside. It does like a quick edit right there. And
And
yeah,
it's nighttime.
we see, right, it's nighttime and we see the old woman. She's perfectly fine for the time being. A doctor, we see the woman in bed. And we find out that not only is the twist that the it's snowing and there's no heat, but it's like a complete opposite of what's actually happened. So she had a fever, she broke the fever, and they're, instead of going towards the sun, they're going away from the sun, apparently not hitting any plants in the process. So in like 2 to 3 weeks, they'll be dead from the cold. And the reason I thought this would be like the third from the sun for you, Jacob, is just a simple fact. It's like, oh, that's
Sudden
kind of
reveal.
different. Yeah, the reveal like completely different from a boring episode, I guess you could say. That's why my feelings on it were.
Well,
But
when
I
the
guess like
Twilight Zone does that, which it does it, uh, it used to do it more often. Like season one, they did it a lot, and we don't get it quite as much now. But when they do that and do it successful, it's great. It is like Third from the Sun. That was like a, oh shit moment. This one just, for me at least, wasn't. It was kind of like a oh, it just wasn't. It fell a little flat for me. I wish honestly the episode had, because like I think she's supposed to, she's had, I guess it's a fever dream literally because she has a fever because she's sick.
Yeah.
yeah.
So she's imagining it's all hot. I wish, I'm cool with that ending actually, but before it, I wish what had happened was maybe showing that keep everything more or less the same-ish, but maybe when the guy breaks in, he's desperate, and have him do his whole thing where he's like, I'm not a bad person or something like that. But maybe some more dialogue, a little bit more drama there, because it moves so quick at that point. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're running out of time. Maybe a little bit more drama to where he either comes to the conclusion himself through conversation with them, or they convince him that, hey, you don't have to do this. We're all doomed and we know it. And, we don't want to die, but we've accepted it. Or maybe they all accept their fate. And maybe that's what the episode would be about, is these people just accepting their inevitable fate. And maybe if he did that, they all just kind of, accepted it together. I feel like that would have been something. There was a reason for this guy busting in, besides showing that people are desperate in desperate times.
Yeah.
We know that. And the radio goes a long way of telling us about that. I think it would have been better if there was some type of character journey, because there's just not. There is no growth by any of these characters. Like,
Right.
we can talk about the budgets all we want, and they have like a big, huge budget. I didn't even need any of that. I just wanted their characters to graduate, to have some type of journey, and they didn't. And I think that was a perfect opportunity. I thought something along those lines is where they were going to go with it, to where, it's not the happiest of endings. It's just it's less about a happy ending. It's more about accepting, what the inevitable, and then maybe flip over and we find, oh, and on top of that, because I feel like I would have been kind of satisfied at that point. I would have been like, okay, this was about that. And then to like tip it on its head and find out, oh, actually, it's a fever dream she's having. But maybe within the dream, because she's sick, so she's probably going to die. And I think the doctor said something like, oh, there's not much else I can do. There's no more medicine.
Right.
Maybe they lean into the fact that, hey, she's probably not going to make it. And then, they all be like, well, none of us are, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe that was her accepting her fate subconsciously within her mind in this fever dream she was having.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like
Or
that.
it could be like the Wizard of Oz, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there.
It kind of
It's
was
just
that
like,
anyway.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
one weird thing to me, the fact that, it's one of those, it's a nitpicky point, but the fact that the guy that broke into the apartment, wouldn't it have been cooler if he was actually like the doctor
Yeah.
at the end?
Yeah, that would have been. But he was in the episode too. Wasn't he the doctor that came and checked on wait, didn't he showed up in the beginning, didn't he? Wasn't he somebody else?
I
I
don't think so. There was only like 3 people in this whole entire episode.
well, the family at the open though,
Oh yeah, but he was this guy was old though. The doctor was a lot older.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say, in addition to what you kind of were talking about, Jake, there's the whole idea of like, these women have kind of accepted their fate, but that doesn't mean that everybody else has. Like, kind of like
Yeah.
they rage, like, not to coin a phrase, but they rage against the machine,
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I think that would have been an interesting, a more interesting story or plot line if they were just trying to like show the guy that, hey, we don't have to resort to this.
Right.
I understand you're desperate and you're going through some shit and you've had some bad shit happen, but you know what? This is happening. Let's just, let's make the best of what we've got. Let's make the best of the little bit of time we have left. And let's just accept the fact there's nothing we can do about it. You can run all you want. Let's just accept it and, live out the little bit of time we have in the best way we possibly can, or something, and just have this guy kind of accept that or something like that. And
Right.
I don't know, something a bit more fulfilling emotionally and character wise, because these characters literally start and end in the same place.
All that changes is their clothes
Yeah, and then
The
it's cold.
weather.
and
But
the
I
amount
mean,
of sweat.
Nothing changed. Like our character, Norma, the main character, nothing nothing. Her character does not change one
Well,
bit from beginning to end.
I think in the end that's the purpose of the episode though, is that see these people just kind of accepted. The problem is that I have with the episode is just the fact that like nothing really happens to
Well,
anybody.
yeah.
Like the guy leaves. Like the whole point of the episode is like they're supposed to accept their fate, and the little bit of time left they have, you know, the closer and closer you get to the reality of death, the more and more you can either accept it or, you know, think of Ithaca, you know.
Is that the point, or is that what we want the point to be? Because I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know if the episode had much of a point except to get to the what a twist ending. Because it does. It all seems like,
But
oh, in the end, ooh, what a twist. It's like somebody
Yeah.
had a cool idea and they just didn't do a whole lot with it.
any apocalyptic story and death, there you either accept. That's the whole point of anything with apocalypse. You know, it's you either accept your death or you freak out and have a, you know, multi day orgy or something like that. I don't know. It's just
It's too hot for
I think
an
the
orgy.
Well, I
problem is
mean,
this-
definitely that, but beyond that,
no, but I think the problem with this episode is it just didn't have a budget. I think if it was given a little bit better budget and some more characters, I think it would have been a lot better episode. It's just the
See,
fact
I'm
that
not
they had
sure-
story. It
I
needed
do
a
think-
better.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
story.
much, because how many episodes have we run across that have had tiny budgets and done and regarded they weren't on this scale? Maybe it was a case of like, well, we have this much budget. This is, like pairing up the budget in the episode kind of a deal.
well, yeah,
all
but you
the
could say
all
the
the
same thing
budget in the
about-
world is not going to make up for a lack of story. Because if they had had more budget, but this same story, like you said, I think they just would have shown her when she went to the grocery store, kind of like sneaking around outside or going and maybe running across some raiders or something, hiding from them and grabbing stuff. And yeah, that'd be, I guess, neat to see. But would that have added anything to the story? In the end, would you have felt like, okay, that made it better, or it just made it longer and bigger? I still wouldn't have gotten anything from the story itself, honestly. I mean, sure, like you said, orgies, they should have gone full Caligula, but they didn't. They made a choice.
Well, the reason I'm saying like it could be set outside is you get that more tense nature of the world that you're surrounding yourself with. Like in an apartment, all you're doing is sitting in an apartment painting. There's nothing exciting about that. But if you're out in the world where there's raiders and looters and you're dealing with the
Mr. Dingle
sun,
is running around trying to find his car.
I agree
Uh,
with that.
yeah.
Not Mr. Dingle,
For
Mr. Beavis.
some stories, but I don't know if that's what this story was. And who knows? I mean, the story, that's the thing. It's hard for me to say. I don't think that that's what this story, where this story was going, but the story didn't go anywhere. So I can't really say. So I guess if they had gone outside and done some shit, it would have been better because it didn't do anything. It's not the direction I felt like the story was originally going. But
well, that's what I was saying. Like, think of like if Time Enough at Last just had, Henry Beavis or whatever his name is, just sit in the vault for the whole episode, and then at the very end he loses his glasses. Like that's awful. That's awful
Well,
storytelling.
yeah.
That's the same problem here. Like if you give some dynamic action of some sort or some substance, I think it would have made it a lot better. For instance, Death's Head Revisited would have been really boring if it just took place in a building for 5 hours or a couple hours with 1-2 people. I mean, it's just you gotta have there's no real outside of the melting painting or whatever, there's no real semblance of anything exciting that happens except
I
she
think
wakes
that they
up
did a
and
good
it's
job
cold.
with like you look at, and I know Nervous Man in a $4 room was not like the greatest episode ever, but look at what they did with like a singular room and like what is it, rear projection. I mean, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool with what they
Yeah.
did with that. I mean, the story wasn't perfect, but it was that inner argument and it stays with you.
I
know.
I absolutely agree that going out, having more can be better. Having a bigger budget and doing more things, showing more stuff, definitely can be better. And I'm not saying it wouldn't have been better, but given the story they have, I don't feel like the budget was the biggest issue they had. I mean, I know that they mentioned it a few times in the notes on this episode, in the books and everything. I saw in the notes on Wikipedia as well. I think this one's biggest issue was that its story was just too thin, and there's just no growth. Because even if they went out in the world and exciting things happened, I mean, look at the movie. I always go back to this one. The movie, it came out in 2002, I think, called X versus Server.
Oh,
Homer
yeah.
Sticks. Anybody
Yep.
remember that movie?
Yep, I do.
There's
The movie
so
with no
much
plot.
shit happening in that fucking movie. It is explosions left and right, all kinds of cool stuff. But for me, this is one of the boringest fucking movies ever because there's just literally no story. It's just action upon action upon action, which it's well done and it's cool. But after a while, it's just like this. The action's great, but I need some type of story, some type of progression, some type of growth for my characters. And didn't get it there, didn't get it here. I feel, I mean, me personally, and we'll never know because this is the way the story happened, but I feel like that was the biggest thing this was missing. Now, I mean, if they had had a bigger budget and maybe they had a bigger story they wanted to tell and they weren't able to do it because of budget, yeah, in that case, I think maybe the budget could have helped. But me, myself, I'm like, I don't think you always need a bigger budget to tell a good story. Now, sometimes you could have a good story and be like, man, if they had a bigger budget, it would have been even better. But that's not the case here, in my opinion. Either way, this is what we got.
Yeah. Yes, it is. We got a story of hot and cold, the heat miser and cold miser. Anyways, moving on, I guess. Yeah, you guys need to watch some kids' holiday specials. Sons of bitches. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's an episode that is not the worst. It's not the best. It needs more. It needs more.
More
girth.
something. More
It
girth.
needs more
more veins.
cowbell. It needs more cowbell, people. And I can pretty much safe to say. I mean, is there anything else you guys want to talk about, Triv? Anything more you want to talk about on this
No, I
episode
think
before
we're
we get
good.
into?
No, I think we're good.
Oh man, this is it's gonna be the shortest episode ever, like 35 minutes long. No, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I don't have any much more else to say on the episode. I don't feel that it doesn't broach the subject of talking for 2 hours about Jewish Nazism and people dying and all that stuff. So it's pretty much a standard Twilight Zone episode with a twist ending of, I mean, Triv, did you? I don't think you answered. Did you like the ending to this episode?
I like the idea that I think execution wise there was other things that could have been done with it, but it wasn't. I remember the first time I saw this. I mean, I was much younger, but I like the idea of the juxtaposition of like the hot versus the cold, and the fact that she had a fever, and that was kind of what was driving it. It wasn't. It's not like a holy shit, but it did what it needed to do. But the whole episode needed more to kind of build up to that to make it more girthy.
It's less of a and more of a
Yeah, that exactly
It's
that.
like-
It was definitely that.
Yeah.
I think.
It's like the first time,
Yeah.
and compared to the second time where it's like,
That happened.
oh yeah.
It feels like when they wrote it, they're like, "Oh my god, this is so clever and awesome." And I'm not saying that from the perspective of
It probably
Rod
was for the
Serling.
60s.
Well,
I
I
think
know,
the
but
idea
I don't.
was
I don't mean like Rod Serling isn't the kind of like write something and go, "Yes, that was spectacular. It was the greatest thing I've ever written."
Jody.
I think this episode would have worked.
Eureka.
I do think this episode worked in the 60s on that concept alone. I just think in a 2023 setting with like some of the episodes we've watched looking back, I just think this is more of the time type of episode than it is of an episode that stands out for the Twilight Zone.
Well, and I'll look at how many of the episodes that really stand out to us, and not to say that moral lessons drive the day, but it's we can relate to it. I mean, whether you're someone that believes in climate change or not, there is that thing about, okay, you could maybe relate it to that, or maybe like the within our own selves, like the hot and the cold and all that stuff. But because we were even good joking about how you can handle 110 without breaking a sweat. I can handle -10 without breaking a sweat. It's that kind of a thing. Like, funny. But
110,
overall,
you definitely break a sweat.
I would hope so. And on -10, you wouldn't break a sweat at all, but you would, be freezing your giblets off. But no, it's a middle of the road tale. I think that I always remember this one, and I can't say that about all of them. So from the perspective of the twist ending, it does have some memorability for me beyond a lot of episodes, and say what you will about that, but it doesn't stand out for any other reason than that. It's not an awesome, crazy, awesome story and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really high in Pace Magazine. It's like number 38 or something like that. It's
See, and I think it's probably like the
it's
person
above
watching this
Walter Jameson and
probably
Death
well,
Head Revisited.
the person watching this probably went, "Oh my god, that's so impactful." And I mean, again, I think the climate change thing, if you look at it from that perspective, there's probably something there for someone that wants to see it. But as with any of
Yeah.
these episodes, you bring in or what you take away is oftentimes what you bring into it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what
Right.
they were going for back then. The whole
No.
climate change thing, because like even on when I was reading up online about it, it just says that it puts the Earth falling out of orbit, going towards the sun, as more or less as the nuclear threat.
Right.
I don't think that, I could be totally wrong here. At least common knowledge, or I don't think they were making story, or that was a concern.
No, I
Should it
don't
have
think
been or
so.
not? I don't know. That's debatable, but I don't think that climate change or any of that type of stuff, if you had said that to people back then, they'd be like, what? Yeah, the climate changes, every season. I mean,
Right. But you
I don't
understand
think
what I'm saying from a modern perspective.
what people take from
That's
it now. Yeah, absolutely.
right. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm
But
saying, the Pace magazine thing, I can almost guarantee you that at least in some way, shape, or form, it did come to mind with that.
and to speak on what Nick, you had mentioned that maybe it was more impactful in the 60s because it was more in line, the simpler story and stuff like that. I don't know, man, because like we've seen episodes already here on the Twilight Zone that were much more complex than this or had more to say. And I mean, I don't think that just because it was from the 60s, that means that, well, they had simpler
I just
stories.
the
then.
thing I think is, I think that the way people look in the 60s compared to what they look at now, the technology advanced more. We understand a lot more than we did then. And I think an episode like this, it has a lot to say about like climate change and stuff like that. But I think once again, I go back to Rod Serling. I think was just ahead of the curve and almost ahead of his time when it come to these ideas and concepts of what he's trying to present. It just, some of these episodes just don't execute very well. It comes down to the execution of the story, and whether or not you like this episode or not, it's just not a well executed story. It doesn't mean it doesn't pertain a lot of interesting concepts and ideas with like the idea of the sun and the Holocaust, stuff like that, and then it goes to the cold, where the cold is a lot of times known for the after effect. With the sun could be a nuclear bomb going off, and then the after effect could be the nuclear winter in a lot of sense with the cold. And
I was actually
I mean,
surprised that he wrote this.
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think he wrote The Fever too. So is it really that surprising?
I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was like story, like the idea of the story came from him, but then like somebody else wrote the script. Or the story, it's the actual shooting script. I was surprised that he wrote it. It's just because it's just kind of, and I do wonder, I know that you had mentioned, and I saw it too, where he had some other characters that he cut, and there were some other things that were cut. I'm wondering if that changed the story dramatically, and we'll never know. But
Right.
it just, this
It's
seemed
possible.
like kind of vacant for his writing. Like there just wasn't anything there. I mean, there
Well,
was,
see,
but there
once-
was nothing done with what was there. Rather,
Right. Once again, Rod Sterling wrote a good portion of these episodes, so there's going to be an episode or two that just doesn't feel right for even Rod Sterling.
he wrote this shit
it
on a
could be-
Friday.
Yeah, he wrote on a bender. He was doing a bunch of cigarettes and drinking like
He was in his Stephen King phase.
singles. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's doing all coke and shit.
He was, I don't know. Did they do coke back then? He's like
I don't
it's
know.
possible. Yeah.
LSD.
There you go. Well, actually, LSD came in a little later than that. The first, at least,
for Housewives,
movie
right?
reference of it was The Tingler with Vincent Price.
Oh yeah,
Fantastic.
Was
Yeah, 'cause
originally
I know.
military, and then I think Housewives or
Probably.
domestic. Well, no, there was just Housewives back then, but
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mad Men in the '60s. That Mad Men show, they were taking LSD.
yeah, it was
Yep.
prescribed
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. I can't
Well, it's
remember
like
for what.
morphine or cocaine. Cocaine was done back in the 1890s.
Oh, is that why they're all crazy and
Yes.
Genghis
They were
Khan was
smoking
crazy?
it.
Yeah.
Instead
Yes.
of they weren't.
Right.
I don't know if they were snorting it back then.
I think it was in like tinctures more than anything else.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, that is season 3, episode 10, The Midnight Sun. Let's go ahead and head up with the closing narration.
Oh yes, me. I'm absolutely prepared for that. The poles of fear, the extremes of how the earth might conceivably be doomed, minor exercise, and the care and feeding of a nightmare, respectfully submitted by all the thermometer watchers in the Twilight Zone.
I love that term. I think that's
I
great.
thought you said thermometer munchers.
Well, there are those
Them
two.
Yeah.
Pika
like
is
sucking
a
on the
thing.
thermometers.
I watched that one thermometer in this one though. It like blew it all over the place. It got some
It did.
distance.
That's what she said.
That's a-
It blew and then just kept on going. I was like, what the-
the thermometer was hot. All right. So, anyways, that's the episode. Let's go ahead and do the last segment, which is everybody's favorite, including Triv's. The Twilight Zone
Is
ranking
it?
list, the greatest list ever known to man. Because we all love ranking lists.
Oh,
Every single
God.
one of us. Better or worse than Third from the Sun?
Where's Third from the Sun?
Not number 3.
Well, no,
48.
of course not. 48.
I like Third from the Sun better. I thought it had more of. I thought at least the ending was more impactful for me.
Yeah. This needs to go below Escape Clause. That's all I'm going to say, which is number 50.
Is it better than The Arrival?
Which one was The Arrival? Was that the
Man who gone crazy like at the airport.
Oh, yeah. I'd
Gone
rather
Crazy
watch
at
The
the
Lonely
Airport.
than this.
Oh, the guy who looked like Patton.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Passerby was the Civil War one, right?
Yeah.
No, I
So
really
is this better than 22, which was a warm for one more?
I think I like 22 better.
22 was the Charles Bronson one. No, yeah,
No, that was
no.
2.
that was 2.
22 was the
22.
lady, like, she was in the hospital and she kept seeing people talk her to
yeah.
go in the
Yeah,
morgue
with
and stuff.
Dr. Smith or whatever, Jonathan
Yeah.
Harris.
What number are we at? Where is that?
That's 56.
56.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see. And the passerby.
Yeah, I can see this
Mm.
right between those two. Just because
I
the
liked
other
it.
episodes suck.
I liked it more than the passer, but yeah, I think I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Because there's like a divide right there. There's a pretty big gap between 22 and the passerby, in my opinion. Like there's like
I
a
would
lot
agree.
of space for some episodes to go right there. Like many of the other ones, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see those being in the same ballpark. That's a big jump for me from 22 to the passerby. Because 22 I thought was pretty good. Is another one I thought like the idea was neat and some of the execution was cool, but the overall thing was a little messy here or there. Had some issues with it, but passerby, I just didn't like it.
That's fair.
And then there's King 9, Big Tall Way. Yeah, pretty much. I shot an arrow into the air. I thought I liked that one. Whatever.
I think it was the one where the 3 guys disappear. Or is that the other one?
No, it's
I can't remember.
I shot an arrow where they
Yeah.
end up in Reno, isn't it? Or is that
Oh, yeah.
3
yeah,
guys?
That's, yeah. I knew a man in
We've had this
Reno.
conversation before.
we've had that
Um,
conversation many
Watch him
times.
die.
I'm with Triv. I think between 22 and passerby, so 57 in my
So-
opinion.
Yeah.
But how about you,
Sounds good.
Nick?
I think it's perfect. I think I actually agree with you too.
Oh my
I agree
god.
with you both.
Oh my god.
I mean, I put this at number. I mean, unfortunately, Jacob, it won't be above your favorite episode, which is at number 24.
You know what? Given how I was so hell bent on saying that the biggest issue here was that there were no growth with the characters, I will concede on this one because at least in that one, while I did not like the episode, I will admit that there was at least growth with said character.
Right, because he jumped out a window.
Yeah, he grew up and jumped out a fucking window. Yeah,
He grew a whole bunch of glass in his skin.
yeah. I mean, he grew
Right.
dead.
And you had the
All
cat
right.
lady for cat
What is-
lady. For
which one
everything.
was Static?
Static was
Static
the one
was
where
the-
the guy like got the radio. It was one of the video or
the
the
angry
tape
guy.
ones.
It was
Like,
the
he kept-
episode that we came back from after the break that we had the hiatus, where the old man's like upset. He's like mad at people for watching
Oh,
TV.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember that now. I was just looking at the very bottom because I was going to say something about putting it around the fever, and I was like, "Oh yeah, there's trouble with Templeton." And I was like, "Static. Which one is that?"
But yeah, I mean it's still low enough. So,
so.
but yeah, okay. So that was pretty quick, for us at least. So with that said, a new number 57 is the Midnight Sun. Number 1 is still Eye of the Beholder. Number 75 is The Trouble with Templeton. So yeah, those are the rankings. Next episode is Still Valley. Apparently this is not a very good episode from what I read. It's a Civil War episode, which they tend to not be very good episodes for us. Directed by James Sheldon, written by Rod Serling. Stars Gary Merle, Vaughn Taylor, and Ben Cooper. Based off a book from Manly Wade Wellman. So we'll look forward to that. Triv, Jacob, I know you guys have to get out of here soon, so I'll be making this quick. Triv, you have content, you have Beavers. They are you're showing me your theater. Where can we find
No.
all that content theaters at?
Well, I'm not selling you my theater because I'm back in full production finally. I got by the time this drops, I will have dropped Blood Hook. It's a fun 80s movie. And the guy that directed it went on to do quite a lot with Mystery Science Theater. Stop on by, say hi. Definitely check that one out because it was quite a lot of fun to put together. You can find me on YouTube at Trivial Theater. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Trivial Theater.
Excellent. Jacob, once again, congratulations on the almost 5,000 viewed video. It's awesome.
That's
It's at
amazing.
5,000 now.
Definitely check it out. What's that?
It's at 5,000. Well, I've been watching.
Oh,
while we,
okay.
While,
So
Yay.
you're
while we've been
you're on
recording,
the-
it has gotten 463 views, and I have gone up another 12 subscribers
That's amazing, man.
Excellent.
Congrats.
on my little channel.
yeah.
Woohoo!
So
And when I say
with
this,
that-
ladies and gentlemen who are listening to this is on an absolute dead channel that I just started posting to again. So when I say, "Oh, it's going up this much," it's still a very small channel, but
Well, it went
Well,
from
it'll
30
get
to
there,
almost
just
2 or
patience.
to 200. That's incredible.
yeah.
I mean, I think
But
I'm
what-
happy about it's.
But
growth.
Jacob, what is that channel?
That would be well, my main for now channel is Jacob Anders Reviews. You can find me there, where I do movie stuff. That's kind of like a transitional period at the moment. But my other channel, which is Retro Jake XY, that is where I do more gaming focused content, but not necessarily playing games so much as talking about the history of some companies, games, consoles, things like that. Just recently released the story of the Dreamcast, Sega Dreamcast video. That even if you're not into games, I hope you could find something interesting in, and it's
I
doing.
certainly did.
For me, it's doing well. So hope you check that one out and enjoy that. There is more coming. I'm working on its follow-up video. Check it out.
Yeah.
Subscribe if you like it.
Yeah.
Like and
Excellent.
lick it.
Like,
Get
do
your
it.
ass over
Do
and
it.
enjoy it because even if you don't like video games, which
Get
I'm
your ass
not
to
a big
Mars.
fan of, I really found it interesting just because Jake
Get-
is a fantastic presenter.
I tried to
Get your
make
ass to
it
the channel.
entertaining.
Right.
Get your ass to the channel.
There you go.
But anyways, yeah, so definitely check both their channels out. Excellent stuff as always. This video post on my channel, which is Movie Emporium, I'm doing a series of videos, flashback review videos on the works of Mission Impossible and of course
Woohoo.
Indiana Jones. So look forward to that. It's going to be a lot of work, but yeah.
Dun, dun,
But
dun, dun, dun,
you
dun,
might
dun,
actually
dun,
see
dun,
my
dun.
current co-host in 1 or 2 of those videos, so we'll see what happens there. But look forward to that. That'll
Talk
come
about a movie
later.
on the internet.
Yeah, right. But yeah, with that said, you can also find our audio feeds on like Anchor and SoundCloud and iTunes and all that good stuff. But we're out. This is the last of the Midnight Sun for the time being. So for myself, Jacob, and Triv, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, hot motherfuckers.
Go to a nudist colony and just walk around there. Very liberating. Nude
Where are you
beach.
going to keep your
Super
wallet
liberating.
though?
Well, you can. Some people do fanny packs, or you can have little bags and stuff like that. I used a little bag.
Well,
That's cool.
most of the people who go to the news colonies have little bags that'll hang in there.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
like a
true.
walk around. I wasn't gonna wear a fanny pack. It just wasn't happening.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Take to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to.